first up at first glance. The 1985 Philadelphia Mint Washington quarter looks like nothing more than another everyday coin that has passed through thousands of hands, slipped into cash registers, and disappeared into old jars without a second thought. Yet hidden beneath its familiar portrait lies a fascinating story that continues to surprise experienced collectors who know that ordinary appearances can conceal extraordinary possibilities. Produced during a period when the United States Mint was focused on efficiency rather than collectible perfection, millions of these quarters entered circulation, making them seem almost impossible to distinguish from one another. That illusion of sameness is exactly what has allowed a handful of remarkable survivors and unusual minting mistakes to remain unnoticed for decades. Somewhere inside a forgotten dresser drawer, an inherited collection, or a roll sitting untouched in a safe, one of these seemingly common coins could display characteristics that transform it from spare change into an object pursued by specialists willing to compete fiercely for the right example. The excitement begins long before anyone talks about price, because every discovery starts with a careful look that most people never bother to take. Unlike commemorative issues or precious metal coins that immediately attract attention, the 1985 Philadelphia Washington quarter earned its reputation through subtle differences that only reveal themselves under close examination. The crisp profile of George Washington, the sharp lettering, the eagle on the reverse, and the delicate balance between raised and recessed design elements all become important clues once magnification enters the picture. Collectors study whether the rims appear unusually broad or narrow, whether the strike reached every detail of the feathers, whether the lettering shows unexpected thickness, and whether the fields remain unusually clean despite decades of possible circulation. Every tiny characteristic tells part of the coin's journey from blank planchet to finished piece, and even the smallest irregularity can hint that something uncommon happened inside the coining press. Those hidden stories are exactly what keep experienced numismatists searching through endless rolls, knowing that the rarest discoveries rarely announce themselves with dramatic appearances. One of the most intriguing possibilities involves subtle production abnormalities that escaped quality control before entering circulation. A slight doubled appearance in selected letters, an off-center strike that still preserves the full date, an unusually formed rim, or a dramatic die crack crossing important design features can elevate collector interest far beyond that of an ordinary example. Careful examination of weight also matters because a coin struck on an incorrect planchet or affected by an unusual manufacturing event may differ from expected specifications. Surface texture deserves equal attention, as does the color of the metal, since these clues sometimes reveal that something unexpected occurred during production rather than through later damage. Collectors consistently warn newcomers not to confuse post-mint abuse with genuine mint errors, making professional evaluation one of the most important steps before reaching conclusions about rarity or significance. As researchers have documented over the years, several unusual 1985 Philadelphia quarters displaying legitimate mint errors have appeared in collector markets, surprising owners who originally believed they possessed nothing more than pocket change. Smaller but authentic error varieties have reportedly attracted auction or collector interest, reaching approximately $3,000 to $6,000, depending on the strength of the error, preservation, and demand at the time of sale. Particularly unusual examples with combinations of desirable characteristics have been documented changing hands around $6,500 when multiple experts agreed on their authenticity and uniqueness. These figures represent individual collector transactions rather than guaranteed outcomes, reminding every finder that rarity, certification, and timing all influence final prices. Even so, stories like these continue inspiring collectors to examine every quarter more carefully, because remarkable discoveries often begin with ordinary curiosity. Condition introduces another dramatic layer to the mystery surrounding this coin. Most surviving examples spent years in circulation, collecting scratches, dull surfaces, and worn details that limit collector enthusiasm. But occasionally, an untouched specimen emerges from an original bank roll or long-forgotten storage, preserving brilliant luster and razor-sharp design elements that appear almost frozen in time. High-grade certified examples have reached documented collector or auction results near $7,000 when exceptional preservation combines with strong eye appeal and desirable certification. Such prices are not promises for every coin, but reflections of how dramatically quality influences value. Every tiny contact mark, every interruption in the mint luster, and every sign of handling becomes critically important once experts begin assigning numerical grades that separate common survivors from elite examples. The most dramatic stories usually involve coins displaying unmistakable mint mistakes that instantly capture attention once authenticated. Strong off-center strikes, significant die breaks, dramatic retained cuds, or unusual combinations of multiple production errors have achieved reported sales around $8,000 when verified by respected grading services. Even more astonishing are extreme mint state error examples where remarkable preservation meets spectacular production abnormalities, with documented collector purchases approaching $8,600 under competitive market conditions. These extraordinary coins are prized because they preserve evidence of rare manufacturing events that occurred for only a brief moment before equipment was corrected. Every authentic example becomes both a collectible and a permanent historical record of an unexpected event inside the minting process. Perhaps the greatest excitement surrounds the exceptionally rare misstrikes that seem almost impossible until one appears under professional examination. Coins struck on incorrect planchets, dramatic multi-stage striking events, or other highly unusual production combinations have reportedly generated collector sales near $9,000 when their authenticity and rarity were fully documented. At the highest end of the market, truly exceptional or nearly unique 1985 Philadelphia Washington quarters have achieved auction or private collector results approaching $11,000 because advanced specialists recognized characteristics unlikely to be repeated. Those remarkable prices reflect specific documented sales under competitive conditions rather than guarantees, but they illustrate how an overlooked coin can become the centerpiece of a serious collection when rarity, condition, and authenticity align at exactly the right moment. That possibility is what gives this seemingly ordinary quarter its unforgettable appeal, because countless people have unknowingly spent coins that later generations would have treasured had they recognized the subtle warning signs. Somewhere, a family may have emptied an old jar into a vending machine without realizing one unusual quarter carried a hidden story worth investigating. Before dismissing any 1985 Philadelphia Washington quarter as common, examine its weight with an accurate scale, inspect the metal for unusual composition, study the strike quality, look carefully at the rim, and search for genuine letter doubling using proper magnification instead of guessing from wear or damage. If anything appears truly unusual, professional authentication remains the smartest path because expert verification separates genuine discoveries from ordinary coins. Every remarkable auction result began with someone deciding to look just a little closer at what everyone else believed was simply another quarter. Long after many famous rarities have disappeared into private collections, the 1985 Philadelphia Washington quarter continues to fuel new discoveries because millions remain tucked away in forgotten coin rolls, estate collections, and old savings jars that have never been carefully searched. That constant possibility is what keeps experienced collectors returning to this date year after year, knowing that every unopened roll could contain an overlooked treasure waiting to be recognized. Some of the most exciting finds have come from people with no collecting experience at all, individuals who simply noticed an unusual strike, an unexpected weight, or lettering that looked slightly different from the rest. Those moments serve as a reminder that patience often matters more than luck, and that the next remarkable discovery could easily emerge from a coin that has quietly traveled through everyday commerce for decades before finally reaching someone willing to inspect every tiny detail with fresh eyes. The legacy of the 1985 Philadelphia-Washington Quarter is built not on flashy appearance, but on the thrilling possibility that rarity can hide in plain sight. Every documented collector sale has reinforced an important lesson. Value comes from authenticity, condition, and genuine mint-made characteristics rather than rumors or internet claims. Before assuming any coin is valuable, compare it with known examples, verify its specifications, and consider having it examined by a respected third-party grading service if it displays unusual features. Whether it ultimately proves to be an ordinary circulation piece or an extraordinary mint error, the search itself becomes part of the excitement that has inspired generations of collectors. Sometimes the greatest reward is not only the potential value, but the unforgettable realization that history, craftsmanship, and hidden opportunity can all exist within a single coin that most people would never notice. Next up, the 1986 Philadelphia Mint Washington Quarter has spent decades blending into everyday pocket change, quietly passing through cash registers, vending machines, and forgotten jars without attracting even a second glance. At first sight, there is nothing dramatic about its appearance. George Washington's familiar portrait, the classic eagle reverse, and the copper-nickel composition make it appear identical to millions of others produced during the same era. Yet experienced collectors have learned that this ordinary appearance can be surprisingly deceptive. Hidden among countless common examples are a handful of remarkable coins that escaped the mint with unusual characteristics, preserving tiny manufacturing accidents that transformed ordinary circulation pieces into highly desirable collectibles. That possibility is what keeps dedicated treasure hunters searching through old rolls and inherited collections, convinced that one overlooked quarter could still rewrite an ordinary day into an unforgettable discovery. The story becomes even more fascinating when you consider the environment in which these quarters were produced. During 1986, production demands remained high, requiring enormous pressure and constant operation of minting equipment. Even with strict quality control, dies gradually wore down, presses occasionally shifted, and blank planchets sometimes behaved in unexpected ways before becoming finished coins. Most imperfections were caught before release, but a very small number slipped into circulation unnoticed. Those rare survivors became silent witnesses to brief moments inside the mint when something happened differently than intended. Years later, collectors continue studying these subtle clues because every unusual detail tells a story that no ordinary quarter can ever duplicate. The visual characteristics deserve close attention because genuine mint-made abnormalities often hide where casual observers never think to look. Examine the lettering carefully for signs of true doubling instead of ordinary wear. Observe the rim to see whether it remains perfectly formed or reveals unusual thickness or distortion. Study the strike quality across Washington's hair, the eagle's feathers, and the smallest design elements to determine whether pressure was evenly distributed during production. Compare the color of the metal with ordinary examples and verify the weight using an accurate scale because unexpected differences can sometimes point toward an unusual planchet or manufacturing event. These careful observations separate knowledgeable collectors from those who unknowingly spend potentially important coins without realizing their significance. Interest increases dramatically when authentic mint errors enter the conversation. Smaller but legitimate error varieties associated with 1986 Philadelphia quarters have appeared in documented collector markets, with examples reaching approximately $3,000, while stronger versions have achieved prices approaching $4,500 or even $6,000, depending on rarity, preservation, and demand. Particularly unusual discoveries, displaying distinctive combinations of mint-created characteristics, have reportedly attracted collector purchases around $6,500 after careful authentication. These figures represent documented auction or collector sales for specific coins rather than guaranteed values, reminding every collector that no two error coins are judged exactly alike, and that professional examination always plays a critical role before conclusions are reached. Condition creates another entirely different level of excitement because truly outstanding examples from this year are surprisingly difficult to locate. Most entered circulation immediately and accumulated countless marks from decades of everyday use, making pristine survivors exceptionally scarce. When a coin somehow avoids heavy handling and retains brilliant mint luster, sharply defined details, and virtually flawless surfaces, advanced collectors often compete aggressively to secure it. Documented auction and collector sales have shown that elite high-grade certified examples from this date have reached approximately $7,000 when extraordinary preservation meets exceptional eye appeal. Such prices reflect individual market results rather than promises, yet they demonstrate how dramatically condition alone can influence collector demand. The greatest surprises usually emerge from dramatic mint eras that combine visual impact with unquestionable authenticity. Strong off-center strikes, impressive die breaks, major retained cuds, or spectacular strike abnormalities have reportedly generated documented sales approaching $8,000 when verified by respected grading specialists. Even more extraordinary are mint state era examples showing remarkable preservation alongside major production defects, with certain authenticated pieces bringing approximately $8,600 in competitive collector markets. These fascinating coins preserve evidence of unusual events inside the mint that occurred only briefly before machinery was corrected, making every surviving example both historically significant and exceptionally collectible. Beyond those already impressive discoveries lies an even narrower category that continues captivating advanced numismatists. Rare misstrikes involving incorrect planchets, dramatic alignment failures, or multiple manufacturing anomalies have achieved documented collector prices near $9,000 once authenticity, rarity, and originality were confirmed by professional experts. On the highest end of the market, truly exceptional or nearly unique 1986 Philadelphia Washington quarters possessing extraordinary combinations of rarity, preservation, and mint-created characteristics have reached auction or collector sales approaching $11,000. These remarkable transactions represent individual documented results under competitive bidding conditions rather than expectations for every similar-looking coin, reinforcing why proper authentication remains absolutely essential before assigning significance or value. Perhaps the most powerful lesson surrounding this quarter is that many life-changing opportunities disappear simply because no one pauses long enough to examine an ordinary-looking coin. Somewhere, someone may have unknowingly spent a remarkable 1986 Philadelphia quarter decades ago, never realizing it carried features that collectors would later pursue with tremendous enthusiasm. Before overlooking another example, carefully inspect its weight, confirm the correct metal appearance, evaluate the strike quality, study the rim for unusual formation, and search patiently for genuine letter doubling using proper magnification instead of relying on guesswork. If any feature appears truly unusual, professional authentication provides the only reliable path toward understanding its importance. Every famous discovery began with one person deciding that an ordinary quarter deserved a closer look than everyone else had given it. The search for a remarkable 1986 Philadelphia Washington quarter continues because thousands of original coin rolls, forgotten piggy banks, inherited collections, and old bank bags have never been carefully examined by experienced collectors. Every year, stories emerge of people rediscovering coins that sat untouched for decades, only to learn that an unusual strike, a distinctive mint era, or an exceptionally preserved surface made the coin stand out from millions of ordinary examples. These discoveries remind collectors that patience often rewards those willing to inspect every detail instead of rushing through a collection. Sometimes the greatest treasures are not hidden in museums or expensive auctions, but quietly waiting inside a small box that has remained unopened for generations. What makes the 1986 Philadelphia Washington quarter so fascinating is the possibility that history and opportunity can exist within a coin that appears completely ordinary at first glance. Every documented auction result and notable collector sale reinforces the importance of careful examination, accurate identification and independent authentication before assuming any coin has exceptional value. Precise weight, the correct metal composition, a well-defined strike, an unusual rim, or authentic letter doubling may reveal a story that has remained hidden since the day the coin left the mint. Whether it ultimately proves to be a valuable rarity or simply an interesting keepsake, every careful inspection deepens an appreciation for the craftsmanship and history behind American coinage, proving that even the most familiar quarter can still hold an unforgettable surprise. Next up, the 1962 Jefferson nickel is the kind of coin that most people overlook without a second thought, slipping through countless hands as ordinary pocket change while quietly carrying the possibility of an extraordinary story. Produced during an era when the United States Mint was striking enormous numbers of 5-cent coins to satisfy everyday commerce, this nickel rarely attracted attention from the public. Yet time has revealed that hidden among millions of routine examples are a select few that possess remarkable characteristics capable of transforming an ordinary coin into an object of serious collector interest. At first glance, Thomas Jefferson's familiar portrait appears unchanged, and the reverse featuring Monticello seems no different from thousands of others, but experienced collectors understand that true rarity often hides beneath the smallest details, waiting patiently for someone willing to look beyond the obvious. By 1962, minting technology had become highly efficient, but perfection remained impossible. Every working die gradually wore down under enormous pressure, every blank planchet carried the possibility of a tiny manufacturing variation, and every striking press operated at incredible speed throughout long production runs. Even the slightest shift in alignment, pressure, or die condition could create subtle differences that escaped quality control before entering circulation. Those tiny imperfections eventually became permanent records of brief moments inside the mint, preserving evidence of production events that occurred only once or a handful of times before corrections were made. Decades later, these accidental survivors continue capturing the imagination of collectors who appreciate that history sometimes reveals itself through mistakes rather than perfection. The visual examination of a 1962 Jefferson nickel can be surprisingly rewarding because genuine clues often remain invisible until magnification reveals them. The sharpness of Jefferson's hair, the definition around his eye, the strength of the lettering, and the tiny architectural details of Monticello all provide valuable information about strike quality and die condition. Collectors pay close attention to the rim, searching for unusual thickness or distortion, while carefully studying the inscriptions for authentic letter doubling rather than ordinary machine wear. Weight also becomes an important factor because an incorrect planchet or unusual manufacturing event may produce measurable differences from normal specifications. Even the color and texture of the metal deserve careful observation, since unusual appearances sometimes indicate mint-made anomalies rather than post-mint damage. Some of the most exciting discoveries involve authentic mint errors that remained unnoticed for decades before reaching knowledgeable collectors. Documented collector and auction sales have shown that smaller but genuine error varieties associated with certain 1962 Jefferson nickels have achieved prices beginning around $3,000, while stronger examples displaying more dramatic characteristics have realized approximately $4,500, and in some cases approached $6,000, depending on rarity, preservation, and market demand. Particularly unusual examples combining multiple desirable mint-made features have reportedly reached about $6,500 after receiving professional authentication. These figures represent documented collector transactions for specific coins rather than guaranteed values, emphasizing that every coin must be evaluated individually based on its own characteristics. Exceptional preservation introduces another entirely different level of desirability because truly untouched examples from this era have become increasingly difficult to locate. Most 1962 nickels spent decades circulating through stores, banks, vending machines, and everyday transactions, collecting countless contact marks that permanently reduced their quality. A coin that somehow escaped heavy use while retaining vibrant mint luster, razor-sharp details, and virtually flawless surfaces becomes an object of intense competition among advanced collectors. Certified high-grade examples have achieved documented auction or collector sales around $7,000 when extraordinary condition combines with outstanding eye appeal. Such results demonstrate how dramatically condition influences collector interest, although they should never be interpreted as guaranteed outcomes for every similar coin. The greatest excitement often surrounds dramatic mint-created errors that immediately distinguish themselves from ordinary examples once properly authenticated. Strong off-center strikes, major die breaks, retained cuds, broad strikes, or other impressive production abnormalities have reportedly generated collector sales approaching $8,000 under favorable market conditions. Even more remarkable are extreme mint-state error pieces where outstanding preservation accompanies spectacular manufacturing defects, with documented examples bringing approximately $8,600 through competitive collector transactions. These coins preserve evidence of rare production events that occurred for only a brief period before mint personnel corrected the underlying problem, making every authenticated survivor a fascinating piece of minting history. Beyond even those impressive discoveries lies an elite category of exceptionally rare misstrikes that continue fascinating advanced numismatists around the world. Incorrect planchet strikes, extraordinary die alignment failures, or unusual combinations of multiple minting anomalies have achieved documented collector prices near $9,000 after receiving expert verification. At the highest level, extraordinary or nearly unique 1962 Jefferson nickels displaying exceptional preservation, alongside remarkable mint-created characteristics, have reached auction or collector sales approaching $11,000 because experienced specialists recognized qualities unlikely to appear again. These outstanding results reflect specific documented market transactions under competitive bidding rather than expectations for ordinary examples, reinforcing the importance of independent authentication before assigning significance or value. Perhaps the most unforgettable part of this coin story is the realization that countless remarkable discoveries have likely been spent without anyone recognizing their importance. Families have emptied old jars into coin-counting machines, inherited collections have been casually divided, and forgotten nickels have disappeared into circulation because nobody paused long enough to examine them carefully. Before overlooking another 1962 Jefferson nickel, inspect its weight using an accurate scale, compare the metal appearance with known examples, study the strike for unusual weakness or strength, inspect the rim for irregularities, and carefully search for authentic letter doubling under proper magnification instead of relying on guesswork. If anything appears genuinely unusual, professional authentication offers the safest and most reliable path toward determining whether an ordinary-looking nickel may actually hold an extraordinary hidden story. One reason the 1962 Jefferson nickel continues to fascinate collectors is that new discoveries still emerge from places where no one expects them. Old bankrupt rolls, forgotten family collections, estate sales, antique shops, and even spare change jars have occasionally produced coins that remained unnoticed for generations. Many of these finds happened because someone took the time to compare one nickel against another instead of assuming they were all identical. That simple act of curiosity has led to remarkable collector stories, proving that patience and careful observation often matter more than luck. Every untouched collection holds the possibility that a single overlooked coin could reveal a hidden chapter of minting history that has remained invisible for more than half a century. The lasting appeal of the 1962 Jefferson nickel is not built solely on impressive auction prices, but on the excitement of discovering something extraordinary hidden inside an everyday object. Every documented collector sale reminds us that genuine rarity depends on authenticity, condition, and verified mint-made characteristics rather than internet rumors or wishful thinking. Before making assumptions, Always compare the coin's weight, metal composition, strike quality, rim, and lettering with trusted references, and seek professional certification whenever unusual features appear. Whether your nickel ultimately proves to be a valuable rarity or simply a well-preserved historical keepsake, the search itself connects you with generations of collectors who understand that some of the greatest treasures are found only by those willing to look. Next up, the 1971 Jefferson nickel rarely receives the attention given to older silver coins or famous key dates. Yet that quiet reputation is exactly what makes it so intriguing. Millions of these nickels move through everyday commerce, disappearing into cash drawers, piggy banks, and forgotten coffee cans without anyone imagining they might someday become the focus of serious collector interest. At first glance, nothing appears unusual about Thomas Jefferson's familiar portrait or the detailed image of Monticello on the reverse. It looks like an ordinary 5-cent coin that has survived decades of circulation, but beneath that ordinary appearance lies the possibility of hidden minting anomalies and exceptional preservation that have transformed a select few examples into remarkable collectibles. The greatest discoveries often begin with coins that nobody expects to be special, and the 1971 Jefferson nickel has quietly built its reputation on exactly that mystery. The year 1971 marked a period when the United States Mint was operating under heavy production demands to satisfy the nation's growing need for circulating coinage. High-speed presses worked continuously, dies gradually lost their sharpness, and quality control inspectors faced the enormous task of monitoring millions upon millions of freshly struck coins. While the overwhelming majority left the mint exactly as intended, a very small number preserved tiny manufacturing irregularities that slipped into circulation unnoticed. Those accidental survivors eventually became fascinating historical artifacts because they captured brief moments when equipment, pressure, or alignment behaved differently than expected. Collectors today search for these elusive clues, understanding that every authentic mint-made abnormality tells a unique story that cannot be recreated decades later. A careful examination of a 1971 Jefferson nickel reveals far more than casual observers ever notice. The strength of Jefferson's facial details, the crispness of his hair, the sharpness of the inscriptions, and the fine architectural features of Monticello all provide valuable evidence about the quality of the strike. Experienced collectors also study the rim for unusual thickness, incomplete formation, or subtle distortions that may indicate something extraordinary occurred during production. Under proper magnification, they search for genuine letter doubling instead of ordinary wear, while an accurate scale helps confirm whether the coin matches the expected weight or suggests an unusual planchet. Even the color and texture of the metal deserve close inspection, because subtle differences sometimes reveal mint-made characteristics that ordinary circulation damage could never create. The excitement grows considerably once genuine mint errors become part of the discussion. Documented auction and collector sales have shown that smaller authenticated error varieties associated with certain 1971 Jefferson nickels have realized approximately $3,000, while stronger examples featuring more dramatic production flaws have reached around $4,000, $5,000, and even $6,000 depending on the specific era, overall condition, and market demand at the time of sale. Particularly unusual discoveries displaying combinations of desirable mint-created characteristics have reportedly achieved collector purchases near $6,500 after careful examination by recognized experts. These documented results represent individual market transactions rather than guaranteed values, reminding collectors that every coin must be evaluated on its own merits before assumptions are made. Condition alone can completely transform the story of this coin because truly pristine survivors have become increasingly difficult to locate after decades of circulation. Most examples accumulated countless contact marks, dull surfaces, and worn details through everyday handling, leaving only a tiny number with brilliant original luster and nearly flawless preservation. When one of these exceptional pieces receives a top certification grade, advanced collectors often compete aggressively to add it to their collections. Documented auction and collector records have shown high-grade examples reaching approximately $7,000 when remarkable preservation combines with outstanding eye appeal. Such impressive results demonstrate how dramatically condition influences collector demand, although they should always be viewed as examples of documented sales rather than promises for similar coins. Some of the most unforgettable discoveries involve dramatic production errors that immediately separate themselves from ordinary nickels once authenticated. Strong off-center strikes, significant die breaks, broad strikes, retained cuds, or other impressive mint-created abnormalities have reportedly generated documented collector sales approaching $8,000. Even more remarkable are extreme mint state error examples where exceptional preservation exists alongside spectacular manufacturing defects, with certain authenticated pieces realizing approximately $8,600 in competitive collector markets. These fascinating coins preserve evidence of rare production events that lasted only moments before mint personnel corrected the problem, making every surviving example an irreplaceable snapshot of the minting process, frozen in metal. Beyond these already impressive examples exists an even rarer category reserved for extraordinary misstrikes that continue captivating advanced numismatists. Incorrect planchet strikes, severe alignment failures, or unusual combinations of multiple minting anomalies have achieved documented collector prices around $9,000 after receiving professional authentication. At the highest end of the market, exceptional or nearly unique 1971 Jefferson nickels possessing extraordinary preservation together with remarkable mint-created characteristics have reached auction or collector sales approaching $11,000 because specialists recognized features that rarely appear in any collection. These notable prices reflect specific documented transactions under competitive bidding rather than expectations for every similar-looking nickel, reinforcing why expert evaluation remains essential before assigning importance or value. Perhaps the greatest mystery surrounding the 1971 Jefferson nickel is how many important discoveries may have already been unknowingly spent. Someone may have emptied an old jar into a coin-counting machine without realizing one ordinary-looking nickel contained the very characteristics collectors spend years searching to find. Before dismissing another example as common pocket change, carefully verify its weight using a precise scale, inspect the metal for unusual appearance, examine the strike across every major design element, study the rim for irregularities, and search patiently for authentic letter doubling under magnification rather than relying on assumptions. If anything appears genuinely unusual, professional authentication provides the most reliable way to determine whether an overlooked 5-cent coin may actually represent one of the most remarkable hidden discoveries from the year 1971. One of the reasons the 1971 Jefferson nickel continues to attract dedicated collectors is that remarkable discoveries are still being made in places that seem completely ordinary. Unopened bank rolls, inherited coin albums, estate collections, forgotten desk drawers, and even loose change tucked away for decades have occasionally revealed nickels with surprising originality or authentic mint-made characteristics. Many of these finds happened because someone decided to compare one coin with another instead of assuming they were all identical. Those moments remind collectors that patience, knowledge, and careful observation often create opportunities that luck alone never could. Every untouched collection holds the possibility that an overlooked 1971 nickel has been quietly waiting for the right person to recognize what everyone else missed. The lasting fascination of the 1971 Jefferson nickel comes from the simple idea that an everyday coin can preserve an extraordinary story beneath its familiar appearance. Every documented collector sale reinforces the importance of verified authenticity, exceptional condition, and genuine mint-made features rather than speculation or online rumors. Before reaching conclusions about value, Carefully evaluate the coin's weight, confirm the correct metal composition, inspect the strike for unusual strength or weakness, examine the rim for abnormalities, and look closely for true letter doubling with proper magnification. If the coin displays anything that appears genuinely uncommon, professional authentication is the smartest next step. Whether it proves to be a valuable rarity or simply a well-preserved survivor from another era, every careful examination adds to the excitement that makes coin collecting such a rewarding pursuit.